Welcome to Body by Design. I'm your host, Blue Driver, a women's strength training and metabolism coach. I went from years suffering hormone imbalances, looking soft and bloated, to symptom-free and building muscle for a toned athletic physique. Since then, I've made it my mission to empower women to take control of their own health, hormones and body composition. So grab a cup of coffee and let's build your body by design. Hello everyone and welcome back to Body by Design. Now, if you are watching this on YouTube and the picture looks a little bit funny, my apologies, and I'm hoping that the sound comes out all right. We have got a massive storm going over us right now, right when I happen to be recording. So it's very, very dark outside, even though it's 10:30 in the morning and there's a lot of rain and we have a tin roof. So hopefully this recording comes out all right. But this week I wanted to talk about training in perimenopause and menopause. I say perimenopause a lot because I think that's where it starts for women, but this really is the perimenopause and menopause phase of life. There is a very big narrative out there at the moment about training shouldn't change and training should be the same. Or people going to the opposite extreme saying that, we're compromised with our hormones and we shouldn't be training the same way. I think this comes back to the same discussion. I did a podcast on, is it really calories in, calories out? And is that all it is? And there seems to be these two camps of it's all calories in, calories out, evidence-based. And then there's the other camp that says, no, losing weight's all about your hormones. And it's actually both. It really is both. And I am in the same camp with training. I think we do need to take a look at the state someone is in when they come to us. And if their health, metabolic health, hormone health is extremely compromised, training in a certain way may need to change whilst they get their body more resilient before we add in too much stress. Because training is actually a stressor on the body. We just need to be able to recover from it and manage it. So there's that side of things. But then there's also the other side where it's like training shouldn't change at all. We should be able to train the same as anyone else. Just because we're 40 plus doesn't mean that we need to baby ourselves, I suppose, is that, that narrative out there that, training stays the same. Well, yeah, it kind of does because we've still got to push hard. But then there's the other narrative of, no, you shouldn't train the same. It should be very different for perimenopause because of our hormones. Well, if you're coming in already compromised and you're in a bit of a state, well, temporarily, yes, it probably should change a little bit to suit your circumstances. So really, you need to sit back and take a look at, where am I now? Because there's all these narratives out there, but at the end of the day, not one is right or wrong. It depends where you're at. So it's very generalized information and it's not a one size fits all. So for me, when someone comes in, whether they've already been training or they've never trained before, if their nutrition isn't supporting training, if their micronutrients isn't there, like they're not getting enough protein or they're not getting enough of, nutrient dense foods, those sorts of things, your training's not going to go very well either. So we want to make sure all that's right. And once we start getting those micronutrients into our body, our hormones settle down a lot and we become a lot more resilient. We're not very resilient when our hormones are going crazy. And I'm not for or against HRT. I am in the camp of let's fix the foundations first. And the foundations normally come in at nutrition. Let's tidy up your nutrition, get you fueled right, get the micronutrients into you, eat lots of nutrient dense foods. So we're talking about, carbs, proteins, fats, but we want to fill them with root vegetables and fruit and honey, liver, oysters. Have your carrot salad daily. So that's helping detox excess estrogen and endotoxin. So we do all of those things. And a lot of the time, our hormones actually calm down. Perimenopause is actually a symptom of what's been building for the last few years, like over your 20s and 30s, that hasn't adequately supported your body. And now that your hormones are starting to decline, you're not resilient to that. So we fix up that first. Then we bring in the training component. And the training and it can be done simultaneously. And most of the times it's done simultaneously because we can fix up nutrition pretty quickly. But we don't need to baby ourselves because we're in our 40s and we've got some hormone issues. But it's about training smarter. And I think this style of training will absolutely work for any woman, because I think at the end of the day, we're not small men and we actually don't recover well from the amount of volume that men do. So when I talk about volume, I mean lots of reps and sets. The main aim is to build muscle. I think, predominantly women want that sculpted look, and that sculpted look is only going to come from the size of your muscle. So making sure that we're training to build muscle, so hypertrophy, and not in the strength ranges. So strength ranges are usually the 1 to 3 sets, massive, heavy weights relevant to you. And your strength increases. And yes, your muscle will increase with your strength as well. But when we specifically want to fix it, when we specifically want to look at hypertrophy, which is growing muscle mass, 1 for our health and 2 for that look, rep ranges between the 6 and 15 rep ranges is normally what I recommend. So we want to be training in a way that is we can recover from, is ultimately what it is. Now, if you've never trained before, having a little bit of extra volume, so extra might work well for you, because when you first start training, you don't actually truly know, women in particular, truly don't realize how strong they are. So I'll get women coming in going, oh, I just did, a 30 or 40 kilo deadlift. That's great, but I'm sure there's 50 in you. Like most women could probably move a 50 kilo deadlift given the right technique and intensity. So it's when you come in to begin with, you might want a little bit of extra volume in your training, but essentially the first things you should be working on is your form and technique. Learn how to train properly. 1, we don't want to injure ourselves, but when we learn how to train properly, we can eliminate that junk volume. That junk volume is high rep ranges in the 20, 30 range. We don't need to go there. Can it support hypertrophy? Yeah, sure. Plenty of studies say that. But it's about the ability to recover. And everyone is different. One of my very close friends, Anna, an absolute machine. Her body, even in her late 40s, actually handles volume very well. But I would say out of all the women that I have trained, hundreds of women that I have trained and seen across the board, that is an anomaly. There's not many of us that can handle that sort of volume. So it's about the individual as well. But when we come in and our hormones are compromised, high volume is not going to serve us because you're not in a position to be resilient. That doesn't mean let's baby ourselves. What we want to do is get rid of that crap volume. So 3, 4, 5 sets, 4 and 5 sets per exercise is excessive. The rep ranges of 20 to 30, that's excessive as well. We don't want to go there because it stimulates our central nervous system more than it actually stimulates our muscle. So we want to get smart about the way we're training in perimenopause, because our aim is to stimulate the muscle as much as we can to the point where we can still recover. If you cannot recover and it's too much for you, then you need to have a look at what you're doing. And in my experience, overtraining hundreds of women, what I am seeing is quality sets with intensity and good form is what is building muscle. And we don't actually need to be excessive about it, and utilizing the progressive overload method in that. So what is progressive overload? Progressive overload is when week by week, you're adding an extra kilo, an extra rep, better form. Doesn't matter which one it is. They're all a form of progressive overload, but you're getting heavier or more reps every week. So you're progressively overloading your muscles. Every time you go into the gym, you push for that little bit more. And every time you get a little bit more, you're telling your muscles, I need more, grow more. That needs to be done with good form and technique. So we'll always go back to learn how to train well. Get yourself a trainer in the beginning and learn how to execute well. Once you're executing well, 1, to keep you safe. 2, you're going to have the ability to push a lot harder and actually stimulate the muscle a lot better with less reps and sets. Ultimately, once you're up and running, you should be able to work with your major movement patterns. So the major movement patterns we want to put into exercises would be your squat pattern, a hinge pattern, horizontal push, horizontal pull, a vertical push, and a vertical pull. Now, obviously, you can add more to your program with like specializing in the muscle groups. Like you might want to do leg extensions for your quads. You might want to specifically do your biceps. But if you did compound movements of those movement patterns and did 2 quality sets to close to failure and worked out 3 to 4 times per week with those movement patterns, and you hit the muscle groups 2 to 3 times in a week, then you are going to have everything covered. But it still comes back to your execution and progressive overload, learning how to train properly. So we get that form and that technique right, and then we're actually able to see what our body is capable of. So we're able to overload every week. Progressive overload, though, needs to be combined with training towards failure. So an intensity. And what we see is, 3 sets of 10, or women who don't have the confidence because they haven't learned the technique and the form, that they don't have the confidence, that they get to a point where they might, put out 8 reps and then they go, oh yeah, I really worked, because they feel it in their cardio, or they don't actually have the form right that gives them the ability to lift more, stimulating that specific muscle. When you have that form and you can push the muscle group, if you're lifting heavy enough and within rep ranges of 6 to 15, your muscles will fail before your cardio do. You literally get to the point where you can't lift. We want to learn what failure looks like for us. What does that intensity look like? Because if you're not training with intensity, it's not going to work. You need to get gritty, girls. Like, get in and get gritty with your training. For God's sake, tie your hair back. Do you know how many women I see in the gym training with their hair down? Get that hair tied back, get it out the way. Don't worry about that. If you want to go with makeup, great, go with makeup. But there seems to be a lot of people putting a lot of effort into looking good at the gym and then trying to maintain that good look when they're lifting. If you're not pulling ugly faces and grunting, you ain't training hard enough. Seriously, you need to train harder. Get gritty, get your hair out the way, and start lifting till you get to muscular failure. So once you've learnt the form, your muscles will then give out. If you're lifting heavy enough in that rep range, anywhere between 6 and 8 is what I'm programming. So it could be, 6 and 15. So depending on what muscle group it is, it might be 6 to 8, or it might be a 12 to 15, or it might be a 10 to 12. Smaller muscle groups tend to take higher volumes, so higher rep ranges than what your large muscle groups. So say like your glutes, or, doing a squat. So that's a compound movement of all your lower exercises. You probably want to keep that in the 6 to 8 rep range because you're moving a lot of weight with that. But then you get to your bicep and they can probably take a little bit more. So you want to be lifting a weight that makes that muscle understand what movement and what muscle is associated with that movement, and pick a weight heavy enough that literally makes you get to the point where you go, I can't get another rep. You literally tried and could not get that other rep. When you learn the technique and then you actually get to the point where the last rep is always a half rep or a non-event because you didn't make it, you've learned true failure. But you're paying attention to your body when you're doing this. So I don't often actually fail now, but I know what it feels like to be there. So I usually pull up when I go, yeah, that was my last rep, because the next one is going to be failure. Or maybe I only had one more in me. If you're working to that intensity, you're getting maximum stimulus in your muscles. So this is where it comes about working smart. Instead of doing these 30 reps where by the end of it, your cardio is exhausted and you're like, oh, God, that felt great. I worked so hard. My muscles are burning and I feel exhausted. No, that you will feel tired after you've lifted heavy, but it's not a muscle burn and it's not a cardio feel that you're looking for. It's literally you're trying to lift that last rep and you can't. Sorry for those listening on podcast and not looking at me on YouTube. You'll see I'm kind of imitating a bicep curl, but you literally get like, I can't get it up again. And it teaches you what your body is capable of. And then you get more efficient. You don't need to go to that last failure because you're training gritty. Essentially, your last 2 or 3 reps should be really slowing down. If you're executing them without your pace slowing down, you're not recruiting your muscle recruitment enough from the first rep to create enough stimulus. Therefore, you have to go to higher rep ranges. Then that's when the central nervous system becomes overstimulated, and or junk volume is what they're talking about. It's not really adding to your growth of muscle, but it is stimulating your central nervous system. And if you're doing this 5-6 days a week, 4-5 sets, lots of reps, your central nervous system over time will become fried. And yes, because we have a lot of hormonal shifts going on in perimenopause and menopause, we don't have the resilience for that. But that doesn't mean that we train differently in the sense that we baby ourselves. Just get smarter. And really, you want to get in, get the job done, and get the fuck out of the gym. We don't want to be spending hours there. So if you've got a well-constructed program that's made up of those major movement patterns that I spoke about, and you did 2 sets to failure within 6 to 15 rep ranges and left the gym, and you were training 3 to 4 times a week, that's where the muscle growth will happen without you frying your central nervous system, without you hitting a wall, I used to do the 4-5 sets, and I was working hard, and I would do the 4-5 sets, not in the high rep ranges, but it was way too much volume for me. And I would find that every 4 weeks, I'm going, right, now I need to deload because my weights are going backwards. I was literally deadlifting 80. I remember my deadlift just got stuck at 80 kilos. And I reckon I was there for 2 years spinning my wheel because I would go backwards. After 4 weeks, I'd get to back to that 80 kilos, and then I would go backwards, and all of a sudden I'd be barely getting 70 off the ground because I haven't recovered. My central nervous system is overloaded. I'm not getting enough recovery. And my food was good. My sleep was good. Why wasn't I getting anywhere? Because I was doing too much for my body to recover. As soon as I shifted away from that and started doing just 2 sets and going all out to failure and not worrying about reps in reserve is also going to go off on a little tangent here. Reps in reserve also isn't something that's great to work by because everyone's perceived reps in reserve. So your coach may say to you, or a trained PT, or someone might say, well, you see a program online that says, so we want you to do this and we want to leave you 4 reps in reserve. And then this set you leave 3 reps in reserve. Well, your idea of reps in reserve and my idea of reps in reserves are going to be very, very different. So how is that actually accurate? And if you've never truly worked to failure and found out what failure feels like, how the fuck do you know how many 3 reps in reserve are? Then there's the other style of 3 sets of 10, but you're not progressively overloading. So it still goes back to, in the early days, you need to train with form, train with intensity, and progressively overload. And that's probably in the order of importance as well. And that's what I do with my clients when they come in. The first thing we're doing is we schedule a program, and I'm right, let's nail your form. And once your form is working, you send videos to me, I give you feedback, giving you tips and trips on form. Now, look, we're always going to get form feedback, but basically what we're looking for is, are you executing it to engage the correct muscle for this exercise? And are you executing it in a safe manner? Once we know that you're doing those 2, then we go, right, let's work on the intensity. So my clients will always hear, I think you had another rep in you there, or actually, I think you could go heavier, pick a heavier weight up. Then from there, it's progressively overloading, because if you've got the technique right and you're now executing with intensity, your aim every week is now to get in there and get 1 more rep or 1 more kilo every damn week. And that's what will grow muscle efficiently for you, that you can recover from, because if you're only doing 2 sets, it's not overstimulating you. And in fact, I had a structure at one point where stress was pretty high in my life. I wasn't able to get to the gym as often as I wanted to. I was doing a build at the time. So I was doing a 5-day program, strategically done 5-day program. And if you want to work out 5 days a week, you can. But you need to look at that structure and make sure it's smart. And those sessions should be a lot shorter than getting in compared to 3 days a week. So I needed to not be taking that time out at this point in my life 5 days a week. So my program was rolled back to 3 days a week, a full body exercise, 1 all-out working set, And the rep ranges changed each week. So the first time I did full body would be an upper focus, and that would be my heavy. So I was doing a 6 to 8 rep range, one working set to all out failure. And then I'd do my legs, but they would be a 12 to 15 rep range, all out to failure. Then the next time I went into the gym, it would be flipped. I'd do my legs and they would be my heavy set of 6 to 8, and then I'd do my upper, and then they would be the 12 to 15 range. And it just kept rotating like that. One set. But I knew how to execute moves. I knew how to train with intensity. And in fact, I don't have capacity to do reps in reserves. I'm training hard, and that weight's hard. I'm not counting reps. I'm just getting in and going till failure. I'm not thinking about, oh, have I got one more? What does this feel like? Do I think that's about 3 left? Oh, fuck that. Who can train like that? I can't do it. I just know how to work damn hard though. So one working set to failure or close to failure. And I grew the most muscle in that build phase on that program than I ever have, because I had the ability to recover from it. Whereas when I was under a lot of stress and I was touching, even though I wasn't touching the same muscle group and it was getting rest in between, it was just too much stimulus from my central nervous system, putting my body into that stress state every single day. So my body wasn't recovering. It used to, but I was under a lot of stress in life that I couldn't remove. So we had to change the program up to suit what I could recover from. And that was a 3-day, 1-set program, and it was amazing. It was really, really great. They were long sessions because I was hitting every single muscle group, and it was broken down into individual muscles as well, not just compound moves. As an advanced trainer, that's more where you tend to go and need to go. But in the early stages, compound moves and 3 to 4 days a week and 2 sets really is all you need. In the beginning, you might want to work up to it. Sometimes I put my ladies on a 3-set progression. So they will start with you want 1 set at 6 to 8, and then the second set you're going to 1 set of 12 to 15, and then the second set you're going to increase the weight again, and you're going to do the 10 to 12, and then the third set you're going to increase the weight again, and you're going to do the 6 to 8 range. That's teaching them to push to failure. You can add more, you can add more, you can add more, because quite often we don't trust our bodies to do that. So there might be 3 sets for some people to begin with, and because you don't actually understand how to push as hard, your body can cope with a little more of the volume of the 3 sets, but it's literally a starter program. Then we move into I can see you now actually know how to train to failure now. So now we swap you to the 2-set structure, continue to work for failure, and let's work for progressive overload. So when I used to do the 4-5 sets, I think I went off on a tangent and I was talking about my 4-5 sets. And I literally was going 4 weeks, I just had to schedule in a deload. Now, when you deload, you're pulling right back, and then you've got to build up again because you spend a week not pushing those weights that you do need to build up. And I just found that I wasn't progressing. I just kept hitting this invisible ceiling of strength that I couldn't work past. And it was literally when I changed 2-set training that all of a sudden my strength went through the roof, because I learned how to train smarter and look after my central nervous system. And I actually rarely deload now. I'm very consistent with my training, but I do listen if I get a day where I'm like, oh, I'm actually really fatigued, or I feel like I didn't recover well from that session. So every couple of months, I feel like I go, my body needs it. I just need to, I find a particular session really hard to progress in. That's my indicator that I go, yeah, okay, I'm just going to have an extra day off. And that's all I do. I just take an extra day off and then I get back into the gym, because I'm training smart. So I'm spending less downtime with these structured deloads that were so crucial for me to even be able to lift. And it all comes back to your central nervous system. And when our hormones are shifting, we aren't as resilient. So we come in, we're kind of a red hot mess, and we want to be that transformation. You want that transformation that you see. It's become a movement. You are a midlife woman with a sculpted hot body. yet you're this kind of hot mess and you don't know how to get there. One, sort your nutrition out. Start tracking your macros and structure them in a way that's going to support your training. So you're fueling going in, so you're getting protein and carbs. Yes, and carbs. Stop cutting the carbs. Carbs have essential micronutrients, but they are also the fuel to fuel us through training and assist our body in turning protein into amino acids that build the muscle. So it works on energy as well as helping energy to build the muscle afterwards. And when we come out of training, ensuring that again, some protein and carbs after training to recover. The carbs will stop you from feeling so sore. The carbs will actually assist your muscles in actually repairing a lot quicker. So get your nutrition right. Eat pro-metabolically. I've done a whole podcast on oh my God, coffee, please, people. Right. Okay. Let's get some words out. I've done a podcast on pro-metabolic eating and living. Pro-metabolic eating, it kind of sounds like a fad trend, but essentially at the end of the day, we're eating how our ancestors used to eat. We're eating to what our biological needs are, our physiological needs. The systems in our body are literally set up on the nutrition that we get from these types of foods. Grass-fed meat, seafood, dairy, nutrient-dense carbs like fruits and roots and honey and juice, liver and oysters full of amazing micronutrients that we miss out a lot in the modern diet because we've stopped eating organ meats. Go back to that. If you don't like the thought of eating liver and oysters, get yourself a decent supplement. Saturated supplements are fucking amazing. Message me for a code. It's actually Lou Asterix. So if you ever go to their website, you'll get a discount, or message me on Instagram. Happy to give you a link and a code. But they are an amazing supplement. So if you can't eat it, take it. So this is the pinning of it, the underpinning of it. Because if we have that, then we have the ability to push our body and our body manage that stress. We don't need to baby ourselves because all that nutrition is going to help with the hormonal craziness that's going on. It will help us be resilient. It will help provide the nutrients to our body to actually build this muscle that we want, to actually be able to go in and train hard without exhausting ourselves. If you are exhausted in training and not recovering after a set, like if you go from movement to movement and your energy is just going down and down and down and down, and by the time you walk out the gym, you're like, oh, you're dragging your ass out going, oh my God, I can't move. You've overtrained or you've underfueled. It's one or the other. So look at your volume and look at your food, because that is going to create more stress than training smart. All right. And if you are exhausted afterwards and need to go and have a nap, you're not fueling right afterwards either. So look at your nutrition, fuel your body properly. All these micronutrients will help alleviate so many of these perimenopause symptoms. Like I said, I'm not pro or against HRT. I think everyone's situation is different, but I do actually believe that everyone needs to start with nutrition and proper training. If you're one of those people hitting the gym 5-6 days a week and you feel run ragged all the time, you're overtraining. Maybe you've never trained before. Maybe you're an overtrainer. If you're not getting the results, regardless if it's training or not training, wherever you are, you need to train smarter and fuel properly. And if you are feeling all those perimenopausal symptoms and you're thinking that you can't train or you can't train harder because you need to nurture your hormones, it's not the training. Heads up, it's not the training. Building that muscle mass is actually going to help you in perimenopause. It is your nutrition that has sent your hormones wild. It is you're not supporting your body enough to go through this very natural shift. Now, most of the time when people get their nutrition and their training right, so they're managing their central nervous system, they're recovering well, they're feeding it well, a lot of those hormone system symptoms disappear. Now, there is sometimes that they don't. And if hot flushes, meaning, and you've tried everything and you're not sleeping at night, that's going to impact you just as much. So maybe HRT, something like progesterone, maybe even a little bit of testosterone is going to help you. Then that might be an option for you too. But make sure you get some good advice, not just from a doctor who goes, here's estrogen. Okay, because that's not the way to go about it. Get educated on bioidentical hormones, progesterone. So I have some clients that go on it, and I have some clients that don't, because their symptoms actually resolve just from doing the foundations. And I would say 90% of my clients actually have their hormone symptoms resolved by fueling themselves properly and training properly. They're not flogging themselves anymore. And your body actually copes with the shift in hormones much better. So they're the foundations of training. You need to train smarter. It's not that you've got to change the way you're training as such. It's actually, if what you're doing isn't working, then you need to change it because it's not working. But it's just this whole narrative around we have to change the way we train in perimenopause. We only change it if it's not working. So if you're not training at all, that doesn't mean we don't train because we're in perimenopause. You actually need it and it will improve you. Let's just do it smartly so we don't fry you even more. Or if you're already training and you're not getting the results you want to see, you've got two things to look at: and training smart. Let's pull back some volume. But training smart does not mean not training hard. You need to make those working sets count. Get gritty, lift heavy, pull those crazy faces. That's where building muscle will happen. And that is where the sculpted body that you desire will come from, along with amazing health. This is the thing. Our bodies are simply a symptom of our lifestyle and habits. So if our lifestyle and habits with nutrition and getting sleep and things like that are crap, your body's going to be pretty crap too. So if you actually want that body, you're going to have to change your lifestyle and habits to get to that. Now, if anyone wants to know where to start and is scratching their head and has no idea about it because there's so much information out there, I do have a community group and a free roadmap that lays out step by step. So you can just take it one at a time, just add something each week, every couple of weeks, add a new great habit that will take you through this process and set you up for success, because it is a movement. I remember when I was growing up, it was like, oh, it's downhill from 40. That's not the case, and it doesn't have to be. I am living proof of that. I started this in my 50s and I feel phenomenal and I look great and I'll step out in a bikini. Imagine what it would be like if you just felt comfortable in your clothes, if you felt healthy and resilient and not worn down and ragged all the time. This is the time that we take back something for ourselves. We've lived in a society that's saying mums need to be the traditional mums and give everything, yet set up in a society where we still also have to work and we still also have to be the perfect wife and we have to be the perfect mum and the perfect friend, and we give, and by nature, feminine energy is giving and caring, but we've done it at the expense of ourselves. Enough is enough. This midlife does not have to mean it's all over. You actually can have that massive transformation. Is it going to happen in 8 to 12 weeks? Absolutely not. So the time to get started is now. Don't leave it any longer, because you've got a year or two. If you don't want to work for a year or two, and you will get wins along the way, you're going to progressively get there. It's just not a fast change. But if you want it, you can have it. Go to my page and have a look at what I did in 2 years. I think we overestimate what we can accomplish in 3 months and underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. And if we all just dedicated a year to cleaning shit up, getting our diet right, training consistently, getting our steps in, getting sleep and sunlight, not only will your body look amazing, your body will look amazing because why? You feel fantastic. You have great health. You've learned how to train smart. Training doesn't have to be about flogging yourself. So either you're feeling it and you're flogging yourself, or you're that exhausted already, the thought of training just makes you tired. Both of those need addressing, and training smart. You just need to train smart. You don't have to train differently. You still have to train hard. You just need to train smart, and it's structuring it a little bit differently in a sense that we're protecting our central nervous system. Forget all the fancy moves. Forget all the viral, crazy glute moves. Just get in and do some good compound moves. Train to failure, progressive overload, and your body will literally change. I'm hoping that this has helped clarify the type of training that we do in our 40s and how it actually, though we train smarter and we can change things up for you, it's actually not that training in your 40s is different. It's that what you're doing currently is not working. And if it's not working, then yes, it does need to be changed. All right. If what you're doing is working for you, then no, keep doing it. If you're still got a great body and you're building muscle and you feel fantastic, then no, you don't need to change your training like some of the narratives are out there. But if you don't have the results that you want, then something has to change. And training efficiently to protect our central nervous system, make sure we don't put more stress on our hormones and fueling ourselves right, training actually becomes really fun and really rewarding, and it just feels so good. I haven't met anyone yet who's nailed training and nutrition that's gone, shit, I wish I didn't get strong. I wish I didn't get healthy. And you look at all those midlife transformations out there that are happening, and they're all saying the same thing. Strength train, get your nutrition right, track your macros so you understand, and get your steps in. Some really basic things that all of them are doing. Yes, there's little differences from coach to coach, but they're all those people that have had that transformation have done the same basics. So learn how to train smart instead of training in a way that's driving you into the ground even more. If you've gotten something out of this and you think it's valuable, please share on Instagram and tag me at strengthtraining.nutritionist, and I will share that too. And until next time, enjoy.